Welcome to the Echo of Connections podcast, where we bring you the tools, resources, and ideas to help those of us in need work through our traumas, along with bringing a deeper understanding of resiliency, miracles, mental health, and emergency services. We welcome guests from all walks of life, starting with police dispatchers, officers, and the families of first responders, along with professionals to help guide us towards a better living. You can find Echo of Connections on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon's Audible, and our YouTube channel. Make sure to check out our links in the description below.
Welcome to Echo of Connections. I'm your host, Dawn Hansen, with my son,
Gabe
Hansen.
Gabe Hansen, yeah.
And our guests today are
My good friends, Alex and Leah Blankenship. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, okay.
So, didn't you guys get married like a year ago, sometime in September, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's coming up.
A week from now.
Week from now?
A year ago, a week from now.
September
18th.
18th. It's a big day.
Wow.
Yes.
I really should.
Make sure to talk to the mic. Yeah.
Alex,
Yeah, I should really keep track of that date.
Yeah.
Alex needs
Which
to
day
go.
was that again?
18.
18.
I know the
18.
date. I was just like, it's like, yeah, we're almost halfway through September, and I was like,
The day I almost died.
we're almost halfway through September. That is true.
And took a few friends with me.
Yeah, that was a weird day for the caravan.
Driving back was not fun for me.
Yeah.
But
Oh, Leah's mom lit us up a storm. She was like, the groomsmen didn't stay to clean everything up.
oh,
And I was like,
sorry.
I don't know, like nobody told them to do that.
I got the okay from the people whose wedding it was. So
Yeah, I was like, you can leave. We're leaving.
It's like the
Yeah.
rest of them all lived in town. You guys lived,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
we had already also canceled our second
She was
night.
the one that
Yeah.
insisted having it so close to my side of the family. So.
Yeah,
True.
but
if you
it
hear a
was a
little
very fun experience though.
crunching noise in the background, Rangers here participating in our podcast.
Yes.
Right next to Alex's favorite person.
Due to some wildfires, we don't want to throw them outside.
Yeah, that's true. We do have wildfires. So when did you guys first meet? How long ago?
Oh, yeah, you've already heard this story.
I guess it was also in September.
Okay.
So it would be almost 4 years ago now.
It would be about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It was
Doesn't feel
Leah's
that long.
just starting her freshman year of college.
Yeah.
It was crazy. She'd only been there for what, like 2-3 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
Did you guys have a class together, or how did you meet?
Oh
No.
no.
We
met on Tinder.
We met
Yeah.
on Tinder.
So do you swipe right or swipe left? I don't know how it
Oh, I
works.
super liked her.
Did you?
There's
That's
this-
swipe
you
up.
you get one a day.
Oh,
And I was like, honestly, I was swooned.
Well, the
Swoon.
funny part is that Alex is my first and only boyfriend, anything like that. And when I started school, I had a group of friends that all were like, oh, Leah, you should make a Tinder, you should all this stuff. I was very uninterested, I'm a hardworking woman in STEM or whatever, and didn't think I needed to be doing that sort of thing. And,
so hold on. STEM.
Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics is what the acronym stands for. I'm a neuroscience student at the University of Oregon right now. But at the time, I was like, I've got too much on my plate, not really interested. But they made a whole Tinder for me, picked out the photos and everything, and I just wrote the bio. And I was not taking it seriously at all. I think all I wrote was something about liking Star Wars: The Clone Wars, which is still my favorite television show ever to this
Rock
day.
on.
Yeah.
And stuff about liking science, and didn't really expect it to go anywhere, but I was like, fine, maybe I'll chat with some people. Didn't really intend on going on a date or anything like that. But then this guy super liked me, and I saw he had something in his bio about being a Dungeons and Dragons DM, and I had just lost my Dungeons and Dragons group because my friend broke up with the DM,
Oh dear.
and I wanted a new group to play with. Just started in this new city, going to school, and I was like, you know what? At least making friends with this guy.
Right.
Maybe I could get a new group going. Not really taking it seriously, and he was taking it very seriously. Was very excited about me, and was like, let's set up a date. Let's do this. But he was so sweet. He was like, well, let's pick somewhere you can walk to from campus, so you don't have to get in my car. Like very much being very gentlemanly and everything. So I was like, you know what? Whatever. The worst thing that could come of it is I don't see this guy again. Maybe best case scenario, I have like a new friend, new group to play D&D with, and then I met him. And
So where was the date?
Oh, yeah. So I learned not to take my stepmom's advice that day. I was like, oh crap. She said yes. I had to figure out what to do now, and I sent my stepmom a message, and I was like, hey, because my stepmom gets out a lot more than I do. And I was like, do you know anywhere around the university that has like, you know, like good food, but it's not super expensive? Like, I don't want an overly formal first date, right? And she was like, oh, there's just like cute little Chinese place on the corner. And I was like, yeah, Chinese food, like everybody likes Chinese food, right? Like there's something for everybody there. And I think it was called Maple Garden.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Super close to the UO. And honestly, the food is not great.
No, it wasn't very good. I haven't been back since.
Yeah, I didn't
That's
eat
funny.
anything. I ordered food and I was too nervous to eat
Oh,
because I felt like just puking the whole time. I was so nervous. It just goes to show there's been a lot of change from when I first met Leah.
yeah.
I was like, girls, they terrify me. I mean, because they're I know it feels like, you know, it's like high risk, you know, like all that could be but never will. And because I really liked Leah, like I was like, she's so nice, we have so many interests, and oh man, but I would say it turned out well.
Yeah.
I would say so. I would say so.
Because apparently, so how did you guys round about to a second date? Was it like instant connection, or?
For me, it was like I had, you know, tried dating before when I was in high school and was always very, very terrible at it. I did not have good social skills by any means. Always had very nerdy interests. Didn't really know how to talk to guys. Like, it was just kind of always a train wreck for me. And so, you know, I would always like kind of be so anxious that I couldn't know how to react. But because I wasn't really taking it seriously, and it felt like a pretty low stakes thing for me, you know, I was like, I'm just going to go into this and be myself and talk about whatever I want to talk about. And if he still wants to hang out and play D&D or something like that, like, I'm down. Like, you know, I'll just do whatever, because I wasn't so invested. It wasn't this huge, you know, oh my gosh, I've had a crush on this guy for months or something like that, like very high school,
Right.
you know.
So no real
And
build
so I
up.
went, and you know, he was asking me about different things. He asked me about, I have a tattoo of the solar system and some stuff, and he asked me some stuff about that. So I went on like a 45-minute rant about why I think Pluto should be a planet.
Amen. Yes.
Yes.
Rocking the Pluto.
I wrote a term paper about that when I was in high school, and that was fed into the tattoo. And so he listened to that and then still had more questions and was still interested in talking to me. And so I was like, okay, you know, like that's pretty impressive to me. Like he still wants to talk. He's still interested in what I have to say. And, you know, he still wanted to hang out. So I was like, I mean, anyone that can listen to me rant about Pluto for 45 minutes, like I'm willing to hang out a little bit more. So yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but you know, Leah's parents don't even know we met on Tinder, but we're married, so I guess it's fine now.
You're
right?
safe.
Like,
They're never going to hear this.
I mean, like, also if they do, like, I mean, it worked out.
It's been long enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on our first date, we actually we asked a lot of like pretty serious questions about like where we wanted to go in life.
Because I was not about to waste my time.
You're like, I got things to do. You're a woman with a mission.
Yes.
I've heard this about you.
Yes.
Well, I had been on Tinder for I think like close to 2 years at this point.
Wow.
And
Close to 2 days for me before I met him.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
we talk about this. I was like, that's insane to me. But and so I've been on a lot of dates, right? And every time I'm like, you know, like she's really nice, but I just don't see it, right? And so I developed this habit of just like, I'm just gonna ask the questions that matter to me. Like, what do you want out of life, right? And so a lot of that, I was like, okay, like I super respect that. Like what she wanted, I felt like was really in line with where I saw myself going in like my future. And the funny thing is that day I was like, you know what, let's just go back to my place and watch crappy space documentaries. And that's what we did.
Oh, nice.
And that's so it
So
was,
you rounded out the crappy Chinese food with a good conversation over Pluto.
Yes.
And then a crappy space documentary.
Absolutely.
It was very sweet.
It's like you have to test somebody if they can't have fun when things are bad.
Right.
Like, it's not going to work. You know.
Like, oh my god, this Chinese food is terrible.
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta get out of here. But, and Leah's parents don't know this. This is the crazy part, right?
This is the secret.
So
Shh, don't tell
yeah,
anybody.
I actually asked Leah to be my girlfriend on the first day I met her.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
And then so it was right after that she must went home that you messaged all of us on Discord and were like, I met somebody.
yeah,
Like he was super excited.
super excited.
Yeah.
So, and do you remember that pretty vividly?
Yeah, I mean, like it's only been a couple of years. But
And I'm pretty sure it was
not
like
much else major
I
has
think
happened.
it was like not the second date, but maybe like the third or fourth time I hung out with you ever. That you were like, time to play D&D with the guys.
Yeah, yeah.
that was the next hurdle. I remember that being
because that
a
was his
worry.
thing. He's like, well, I've asked her a lot of these big questions, you know, but like, you know, a girl that can't also basically date the guys can't date me, you know, like that was
fair.
his perspective. Like,
I
if I
mean,
can't get along with them, how's it gonna go, right? And so,
So, okay, serious D&D question. So, your first character that you made with them,
oh gosh,
what did you make?
So the first game that she played with us didn't go so well. All right.
Oh,
I
why?
believe that first game only saw one session once Leah was
well, I
involved.
didn't make a character the first game. I just
Okay.
wanted to like watch and like pick up how
Oh.
they play it.
But
you
That's
know?
fair.
The real
That's
first
fair.
time,
That's smart.
the real first time she had a character, I believe it was a fighter, and
Was it the Triton?
I think it was my Triton.
I don't
Triton
remember what race,
fighter.
but that campaign didn't go very far because Alex,
Had Hob and Gob.
had Hob and Gob. So these are
Is this the wall guy?
no.
No,
So
no.
the tower shield guy is someone else, but
Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
no. So Hob and Gob, they're what? Were they like twins, clones,
Yeah.
whatever?
Twin Goblin Paladin.
It took him all day to make one character, then double it,
Yeah.
and then waited all. Then they like it was just the core D&D group, and then we brought in other people, and that's
Like
when it
later
expanded.
on, yeah.
And we only played like 1 or 2 sessions with that group because it was just too many people.
Okay.
It was
really.
it was like everyone
It was
would
like
get
8
bored
people.
because by the time
Yeah.
like it just took so long to go around the table once.
Yeah.
So like one combat would be like 6 hours.
Oh.
And I was the DM, so
Oh.
my second large group DM, and I don't like it.
I
No,
volunteered
it
Gabe
was
for
too
this.
big.
Yeah,
Did you like, and the first game?
I was
Well,
like,
it
Gabe,
was
there
more
might be a
like
couple
it was more
people.
like Gabe was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that," and
Yeah.
then we brought like way too many people.
To the table,
and I still
literally.
tried, and
Yeah.
it was fine.
I think
but then
Gabe
it
did
got to the
great.
point
I
where
think
it was
Gabe
like,
did great.
I want to go back to just the core group.
Yeah.
And then I remember the last thing Alex did, because like you were the last person to do anything, is you killed someone by shitting in their mouth.
Yeah.
So
That's
Yeah.
correct. That's correct.
And you still stayed with the
yeah,
group.
that was
Yeah,
that
well,
was her
it's funny,
first session.
Like,
so.
you know, looking back and like
Yeah.
hearing everyone's perspective on this whole thing is Alex had said all this stuff to them beforehand about like, you know, you gotta like act nice, don't scare her off, like, you know, be appropriate and
Let
like
me
all
scare
these
her off.
things.
And then you dialed
he's
it
the
up.
one that goes straight to that. So
There's
It was-
always one in a D&D group.
And it was pretty much after that, the rest of us were like, all right, so no filter then. That works
Yeah.
for us.
Right? The filter drops instantly.
and it was the best. It was the best.
Yeah.
I'm you know, like they're my favorite people to hang around. Like
That
you know,
is
I
so
have
cool.
some other friends, but like you guys are y'all are my main friends that I hang out with, and
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
Every Saturday, you guys are like clockwork.
yeah,
You
every
get-
Saturday.
You know, 1 o'clock,
You know,
Gabe's
my,
like,
my
I gotta go.
coworkers always ask like, "Oh, any fun plans for the weekend?" And I'm like, "Same thing I do every weekend, guys."
So where do you work at?
I work in a neuroscience lab
Oh.
at the University of Oregon.
Is this with the mice?
Yes, I do. We work with lab mice. We're studying a very small part of the brain called the habenula. I work in the Sylwestric lab, so the whole lab is focused around the habenula.
Where's that at in the brain? Help me, help me.
So
Hippocampus?
in the middle of your brain
Okay.
is like your thalamus.
Okay. That I know.
Then on top of the thalamus is like the epithalamus, which
Okay.
epi means on top of. So, you know, on top of the thalamus. Then a very tiny part of the epithalamus right next to the ventricles, which is the watery part in the middle of the brain where
Okay.
your spinal fluid runs through. That is the habenula.
And that's your focus is just.
Yep, the whole lab, just the habenula.
And what can one discover from studying just that
Yeah, so the
area?
habenula appears to have a lot of influences on a lot of different behaviors, but mainly it seems like the neurons kind of we kind of study at like the very cellular level, so it's very dense. But it basically affects a lot of the like dopamine circuits, if that kind of makes sense.
Sure does.
So you can kind of think of it like anything, any condition or behavior that kind of is involved with those dopamine circuits, like addiction, motivation, potentially ADHD, schizophrenia, depression, like all of these different things. There's kind of like implications for that in the work that we do.
Wow.
Yeah. So my personal project is kind of further from that. I'm literally just trying to characterize one type of cell that is in that part of the brain.
Interesting.
And figure out what it does and what behaviors it takes part in, where its axons go, which is also important. But yeah, that's kind of the work I do, and we do our work in mice, which is pretty cool. And hopefully we'll have implications for people someday. But yeah, that's what I do for now. I'm applying to grad school right now, and hopefully going to kind of continue doing similar work. But
and what's the process to get into grad school? Is it pretty intense, or?
It is. It seems like not that intense to me, just because I have a lot of friends applying to med school right now. So it's much less than that,
okay,
for sure.
All right, fair enough.
But in STEM, you can either do like a master's and then move on to a PhD eventually. But a lot of people, especially in the biological sciences and like really hard even more intricate like chemistry, physics, and stuff like that, it's pretty common to just go straight into a PhD program.
Oh, okay.
And that's what I'm hopefully going to do.
Oh, so you're going to be...
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the plan, but we'll see.
We'll see,
We'll
right?
see what happens.
And I know that Alex, you how long have you been at the job you're at now? What, a couple months?
Not super long. I would say like 2. We're going on 3.
3 months.
Yeah, I would say we're going on to 3. But yeah, I mean, I'm a graduate from UO.
You're the business guy, right? The business major.
Yeah, I would say it's the business world is really interesting, especially when it comes to degrees, because it's when it comes to your degree, there's something called a focus in business administration, and the focus is actually really important.
What did you end up focusing on?
Operational analytics, which
sounds very technical.
It's one of the more technical ones. Like I know like 4 coding languages.
Okay, okay, so you do know
was
coding.
That because of your degree? You know what coding languages?
Yes.
Oh.
Yep. I
always thought it was just you did that for fun.
Well, I mean, partially,
it's the kind of thing he would do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. Okay.
But do you like coding?
No.
You hate it.
Hate it. Hate it.
Oh, it's so
burning
painful.
passion.
So I was just talking to a coder who works at LCC who actually really enjoys it because she comes at it from a little... and here's me not knowing anything. So I'll just tell you what she said, sort of, which is that she likes it when a problem is presented to her and then she has to come up with a solution, and that she described it as a sandwich, so that you figure out, like, I need this as the bread, I need this as the layers of meat, I need this as the cheese and the sauce, and then I need an end code.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty fundamental to coding, is that like you know what you need in, you know what you need out, right? Because then you can just build an equation. When you think about it, it's just algebra,
right?
Like I mean, like most problems are complicated algebra when you really think about it. Like,
where's X?
I have 5 employees, I need this much work done, and it's like, how do I assign that, right? How do I make it happen? Or I have this data set, I need to make sense of it, right? How do I make that happen? And once you know what you have in and what you need out, I wouldn't say that it's not hard, but the bulk of your problems are solved because you have direction.
Yeah,
right?
You have a goal or whatever. Okay.
Yeah, I personally don't enjoy coding, and I think that's not because I don't like coding. I think it's because I had to learn 4 languages in a year, and so it's
squish.
like, yeah, it's like, oh man, like this one, it's like that functions. This one's it's this functions, and I'm like,
so each language has its own little quirky.
Well, the underlying logic is very similar, but it can get frustrating when you're like, you just
I have
worked in
less
one.
coding experience. I've gotten into it a little bit lately. Not really something you can avoid in the field that I work in for too long. I enjoy it to some extent, but I definitely understand, like, it feels like the more you learn of like more than one language, like that almost like makes it more complicated, because like, you know, you end up having to reference like other things a lot more because you don't like you have to remember what belongs to which one. Like you
Oh,
know
okay.
the ways to do it, but there's so many different ways to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
90% of coding is stealing code, and I use that loosely because sometimes it's given, sometimes it's not.
Oh, okay.
90% of coding is figuring out what your problem is and seeing if somebody else has done it already.
Because you don't really need to rethink the whole wheel.
And
You can.
adaptation.
Yeah, it's like, you know, if somebody has already paid, you know, $50 million for X software, why make it again?
Right.
License
It's
it,
already
right?
there.
And so it's, yeah, I mean, that's just how the coding world is. And it can be very frustrating too, because when you're working with somebody else's program, I mean, it's written well, obviously, because people use it, but at the same time, you didn't write it. It would be like trying to know what every sentence is in a book that you didn't write, even though clearly the author knew what they were doing. So it can get crazy. But to my point of the business administration world, focus matters a lot.
Focus
A lot.
matters.
I would never, for the light of day, hire a marketing person for my life. I would,
Oh, interesting.
and not because they're not intelligent,
Uh-huh.
but because the administration part of their degree, I would say, is very lacking. They are
Oh.
very good at research studies,
Okay.
but like you need somebody for administrative assistant, you need somebody clerical. The marketing people have missed out on quite a lot. Like marketing, I don't think they know any coding languages.
No, I would think that's not.
But-
But they know like the end user of social media. Is that
Yeah,
is
well,
that right?
Yeah, well, they know how to do research, right?
Okay.
Which can be really important, right, for certain applications.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also like
That's also part of every other business degree.
as part of every other business degree, right?
Gotcha.
So the issue that I have is that, you know, on our business degree it says business administration. It doesn't say anything about what we focused in.
Oh,
right? So that's
gotcha.
voluntary information. But at the end of the day, right, you see a business administration who graduated in accounting, I go, that guy knows his stuff.
Accounting, yeah.
You want to hire that guy because
Yeah.
the accounting school, I mean, that
Serious
is-
business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those guys, they grind
Yeah.
day in, day out. But you see marketing, and I go, oh, these guys were here for the degree. you
So it's
know?
kind of like the sociology of my day. If you majored in sociology, we're all like, oh, okay. Which my friend
That's
did.
still
Love her
sociology.
to. I love her to no end. But that she also agrees that she wanted to become a massage therapist on purpose.
But yeah, there's value in just having a degree, right?
Right.
It can
Yep.
really help you know a lot of background to certain jobs, and it can really set you up for success. But if you're trying to go into a technical job, it is really important that you know certain things. And for people in marketing, they've got a lot of skills that I would say marketing on its own is not enough. You need a minor in art or something like that, because you can leverage marketing with art. Like, I mean, you know, nobody's business, right? Graphic designers
Graphic
are
design, yeah.
super
Yeah,
high
yeah,
in
yeah.
media. You know your marketing stuff with graphic design. I mean,
You can flip it
I mean,
and
you are
go.
in it, right? Then it's a totally valid major, right? But if I
Totally.
just see marketing with no minor, I'm like, these guys are just trying to get their, you know, their BA, you know?
They're just trying to get their degree and go. Yeah.
But my minor is in economics, and I think I'm only a few classes away from double major in that.
And what does economics? What did you learn from that?
Supply and demand. Economics is interesting because it's the logic of the world, right? When you think about it, consumers, right, us the people, how we spend money, you think it's like, you know, like kind of unpredictable, but in reality, it's really easy. It's like there's what is it? It's a consumer price index is all based on like what people buy, how much they buy, and just the overall demand. But it is really interesting. Economics, I would say, is business for big boys. So, and the business people didn't like it when I said that, and I was like, "Come on, we all know it's harder." But
It's like the serious. Well,
also
it's
supply and demand, which is very logical thinking.
and
yeah.
it's also like
Because
the-
when you talk about part of it, I'm like, yeah,
and
because
yeah.
it's very, very common sense.
But I think it also like it seems like it's a bigger encompassing thing where you're looking at governments and societies
But,
and
yeah,
the
That's-
big picture.
That's macroeconomics, which macroeconomics is really important if you have a ton of money, and even if you're smaller scale, it can be important for being aware of where your money's at,
Where it's
what
going.
doing. Yeah, and but yeah, economics, as Gabe said, is very logical, which is why I think some people excel at it. Even though when you get into like upper division, I think it's econometrics is the math for that can be
intense.
pretty difficult, but for some people it's really not. For some people, they just get it.
You math brain people.
I'm going to keep it real with you. I do have a math brain, but that econometrics really pushed me. It really pushed me hard.
Is it like statistics? Because everybody at my level went to college was like statistics was the killer.
Oh, statistics, man, that is the easiest class I've ever
See,
been in.
you guys are the logic crew.
I've never been that
I-
high level
I
with math,
think-
so I don't know.
I think you would
Statistics
like
is
it.
all logic.
Yeah, I think you would
All
like it.
logic, but
Totally.
The issue is
Maybe I
I think people get anxiety about math, and they see numbers and they're not seeing logic.
Yeah.
which is what math really is. It's just
the,
logic.
The devil put the Greek symbols in with the math.
Yeah, and
Why?
it takes you for a spin,
Right?
But once you
Delta
understand-
who?
Once they start giving you the theta, you're like, why?
yeah, you're like, what is this? I got to tell you, in all my math in college, never once did I do it by hand. Because
Yeah.
why would you?
Oh,
right?
That's why I
right.
love
It's-
high school. Because did you ever take the higher level maths in high school?
Yeah, I was in advanced math.
Yeah. Did they let you have a calculator? Oh.
Yeah, because
Mine didn't.
I had a teacher in college who said no calculators, and I told him I'm using one because and he
Yeah, you
no-
own one,
no
therefore you
pushback.
have access to it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I was like, I'm using my TI 84 plus for this exam, and you're not stopping me, man. Because here's the thing: everybody learns differently. I do not do math by looking at math. I'm a visual math person, and by that I mean I use a lot of graphing. And throughout most of college, graphing is really the answer. If you can figure out what the equations are, what point you're trying to set, what you're trying to figure out, you know your ins, you know your outs.
It's
You
like
just
programming.
make an equation.
There
right?
you go.
Yeah.
And it's just figuring out, hey, where do these things intersect? What do I want and what do I need?
So before you went into, I'm not sure when, but at some point when you were 21, I know you applied to be in police.
Yes.
Do you want to be?
Actually, I was already 21.
You were 21. Okay.
Yeah, I was actually. I think it was probably a year and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's all.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago. Yeah, it was a good experience. I always wanted to be a cop growing up, and I think that's because my perception of what being a police officer was. I like helping people. I think at the core of my being, I really live just to see people smile. I guess if that makes sense. Money and all that other stuff is great because it pays the bills, but like, what I do with that money is it's like I share it, right? That's what I do. That's why I have a wife, right? like
To share your life with.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's smiling alone is fun. Smiling together is better, right? And
That's very sweet.
well, I mean, I do that with everybody. in
I
my
know.
life, right? Where it's
Because to back up just a little bit, the first time I heard your name banted about, I think you were in 9th grade.
No.
Gabe
It
didn't
had to be
like
10th
me.
grade.
10th grade?
At the least, because 9th grade, we didn't meet each other yet.
Okay.
No, Gabe didn't like me when he first knew
No.
me.
That's what he told me. He's
Yeah.
like, there's
Still
this
don't.
guy. He really bothers me. He's really annoying.
That seems to be the theme with most of them and Alex.
Yeah.
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 To be fair, Gabe was one of the few ones I didn't like at first when I first met him too, though. But I think
Is it the hard exterior?
I think I had misjudged
I think we
what Gabe was going through.
We had we must have just had a wrong first encounter. I don't
think
remember what
so.
it was,
You don't remember your first?
but our first meeting just must have been wrong.
Yeah.
'Cause-
I think we were both having a bad day.
Weird. Because
Whatever differences we
Yeah.
had, we worked by, and then now we're very close friends. So
I don't know how we worked through them, but it's just like we just met again. We're like, yeah, whatever. I
whatever.
guess we're friends now.
that's sort of my
well, I think we just
perspective
sort
was.
of we were forced to be like we had enough lunches together. We were just fine. We're friends now.
Because didn't you guys start playing D&D in high school together? Is that the right group? Did I get that right?
Vaguely, wasn't really until out of high school that we got
But- and-
groups going. But
But I know at lunchtime. But were you
oh,
friends?
no, lunchtime.
We would just hang out at lunch.
Yeah, we just went to McDonald's every day for lunch.
Every
Like,
day.
if you really hate somebody, try eating with them every day.
You get over that, huh?
You'll get over it real quick.
Or you start liking somebody and then you eventually hate them.
Yeah, I mean, you'll get it out. People can't be fake with you every day.
That's true.
It's not going to happen.
That's true.
But
Anyway, back to your police experience, because
Yeah.
I sort of know the story, but not really.
yeah, but what I was saying is that in my eyes, I saw the opportunity to be a cop. It's an opportunity to like, I can make a job out of helping people, right? Out of really caring about the people I see and caring about like, I mean, because being a cop, you're there to help people. That was my
Yeah.
my perspective
Yeah.
on it, and that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I'm going to go for this. And so I had been training for a few months We had just done a half marathon, and I've got some pretty severe asthma, so it's like, doing that was crazy for me. I mean that was yeah. I was pushing it, and I didn't do it quick.
Yeah,
but I did do it.
No, you did it. That's right.
And so I was like, I'm gonna give this thing a shot, right? And everybody I interacted with, I think it was the Springfield Police Department. They were wonderful, great.
Okay.
I had a really good experience with all of them. Yeah, no, they were really nice and super respectful. But there were some key points here. I think it took place at a school.
Yep.
And
Middle school.
yeah, we had to do, it was like a logical test of like deductive reasoning. Like, you've got 4 stories. What lines up in all of them? What do you not know? Right. And to be fair, that test was really fun. I think everybody should take it.
Right. I agree.
I'm like, that is just fun. Like, you give that to somebody and they're like, wow, this was interesting. It's a good thought experiment, honestly. But I was really shocked. Like, half the people didn't make it.
Right.
And I was like, whoa.
That's why the test is there.
Yeah.
I was sitting there, I was like, this is fun. Like, I'm having the time of my life with this, right? Half the people didn't make it. And I was like, oh no. And you meet these people while you're waiting. And I was like,
kind of bond over the test.
Like, that guy was really nice and he's out of here.
Like, dang it, he doesn't have the logic.
Yeah. I was like, no. And then you move on to, I think it's the ORPAT. And the ORPAT is rigorous.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that's actually the easier test. We used to have a different one. The POPAT. The POPAT is even harder.
What is this now?
So the ORPAT is what the state settled to, but back in the day when men were men, and the poor POPAT had a machine, a push-pull machine, which I haven't.
ORPAT still has that.
And that it was longer, and you had to be under a certain
We still have to be under a certain time.
But I think it was much further under.
My time limit was 5:30.
I think the original was 5 or maybe 4:30.
Yeah.
And then there was some additional something that I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, push-pull machine is what knocked me out.
That is very common, and particularly, but there's a class or a YouTube video that shows you, because it's all mechanics. It really comes down to mechanics.
Breathe through your belly for that one.
And where your center of gravity is, and if you have a big butt, where to stick your butt out at.
Yeah, I think part of the issue though is for that push-pull machine is some people are shorter, some people are taller, right?
Yeah.
Some of those shorter guys, I was like, they can't do this, right? Like, they're just.
But they do it.
It would just, like, I saw a few guys that get to the push-pull and blow their way through everything else and they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the ORPAT comes up and I'm seeing people blow through this thing and I'm like, holy shit, all these people are jacked.
Were they all like ripped and muscly?
Yeah, I was like,
manly men.
I am. Well, there was this one gal who was so nice, and she passed, and I was really happy for her.
I bet she works there now.
I really hope she does, because she honest to God, I think she had a really good heart on her.
Yeah.
And had all the capabilities to do it well.
Yeah.
But she passed, and I was like, little joy. I was like, fuck yeah. She was screaming in the halls.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, good for her. But there were a few people where I'm like, I don't think they're gonna pass psych evals. Like, some of these guys, like, they're twitching. Like, I'm like, they're gonna make it, but
your meth on board's gonna be a problem.
yeah. I'm like, I don't know about this guy. Like,
right, itchy trigger finger, not good.
yeah. He was like jumping up and down and like shaking, and I was like,
oh boy.
I was like, ooh.
Right,
Calm
rage.
down, sir.
I was like, we got to put this guy in a different county. And so I'm doing my best to get through it, and you have to do a few laps of the course before you get to the push pull. And my issue is, my asthma, I have to pace myself, right? And but with the timing, it's like
At the pressure.
Yeah, and I think before this I had been timing myself and like pushing myself, and I was like, this is as good as I'm gonna get, before.
I'm ready.
And we've been training for months, and I go to hit it, and I get to the push pull machine, I'm out like a light.
Oh.
And I was like, damn. And everybody was really nice and really supportive.
Did you pass out?
Oh, I passed out for just not very long.
Yeah.
But I
Asthma
did.
attack.
Oh,
Asthma attack.
full on.
And
wow.
it happens
Shoot.
like that. And I don't have an inhaler because I guess like
That's
I don't know
another
why I
story
don't have an
about it.
inhaler.
I don't have an inhaler.
I don't know why. I feel like I should have one, but I
Right?
don't.
Okay.
My asthma's pretty manageable.
I know why he
but-
doesn't have an inhaler. I'm the one that has to keep track of all of the.
The wife knows, of course.
Yeah, she does a good job.
I got more medical knowledge with the. the neuroscience stuff, I guess.
Yeah,
Had a pretty bad doctor for a while.
Oh.
3 strikes and he was out, so he's seeing a new one now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah.
That's true. My mom has had asthma her whole life, and when she got to a really good doctor, it totally changed her life. Like, she was able to, it no longer became an issue.
We need a doctor who's had medical knowledge from this century.
Yes, that's actually key.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you know the thing was is
Also,
that
doctors that believe you. That was our
Yes.
issue with this guy.
Yeah.
He was just
We went to that with one of my doctors when I was a kid.
lots of issues with him.
Yeah.
But that's a different story.
I was like, doctor, I taste blood when I run. And he's
That's
like,
all right.
He's like, I don't know.
Have a shot of Jack.
I remember I was talking to my dad, and I love my dad to death. But like,
Taste blood when I run.
yeah.
No,
well,
because that's asthma for you right there.
that's
I know
how
what
it
you're
gets
talking
super
about.
swollen.
That's me.
You know, you exhale, you taste the
Yeah.
iron.
Yeah.
You taste
Oh.
it on your breath. It really
Yeah.
it's not fun.
No.
But yeah, my dad, when I told him asthma, he's like, no way. He's like, all right, go see my doctor. And then his doctor was like, he has asthma. So I was like, what are you gonna say now? Like, go
Listen,
see,
Dad.
go see my mom's doctor now. But it was a great experience. Everybody there was really, really nice. I think I walked away from it being like, you know, those guys are in pretty good shape. But I also walked away from it like being like, you know, I wish there was a broader spectrum of policing opportunities, right? Because I'm not a traffic cop. Like, I mean, you couldn't make me do that for any amount of money. But also, like, civil servant though,
Right.
I'm in, right?
Right.
Like helping people.
I think
Actually,
a lot of people would sign up for it without the traffic part.
oh, for sure.
That's actually probably where they're going
Interesting.
to have to go to survive the future.
Oh, interesting.
Well,
Tell me more about what you...
Well, you're having trouble filling the
Yeah,
people you need.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Why is that? Right? Why are
we keep hearing, and you guys,
Yeah.
you it's your generation, so
yeah,
help
it's
me
our
out.
generation exactly.
I keep hearing the schedule, the hours,
Well,
the
yeah.
mandatory shifts.
And they went to 12s, by the way.
hey, 12s aren't bad. Some people like it.
But then the 12s turn into 16s because of overtime.
You still have to work overtime.
Then they're pretty bad.
So, because they used to have
Yeah.
8s, which they'd go to
Nines.
12s.
We had nines.
which would go to 12s then.
Yeah,
did
which
you
would go
do
to
4
12s.
9s?
5 9s, and it was
5 9s. Ooh.
But they would
That's what
become
I'm
12s
on.
anyways, because they're short-staffed.
that's what I'm on now.
Hey, I've got a degree in operational analytics. I can give you some insight into how to solve a lot of these problems with staffing. There are some
So if I
solutions.
brought
There
you
you go.
some schedules, would you mind taking a look?
Hey, the solution is a lot easier than you think, right? It's like the plain solutions or it's like the obvious one is always it, but it's like, how do I do the obvious thing,
Right.
That's difficult.
That's so funny that you bring that up because I just attended a meeting as the union vice president on the very problem of the schedule and that we don't have enough people to fill the spots that we have. And so I was asking, what is the magical number that makes it so that you can efficiently and effectively staff 12s to cover the shifts that we have at with the minimum number required? And nobody had that number. Not because nobody sat down but nobody, I don't think, had asked that question. And there's a lot of what I see happening in our government. I'm sure it happens in other organizations where nobody's asked those questions and done the analytical view of things from sort of that bigger view, like what you're talking about economics. Like, what is it that we actually need? And how do you know when you need more cops? Like, what is the litmus test to say 5 is not enough, 6 is too many? What is that number?
And see, here's the thing, right? Is that you can never figure out that number, right?
Okay.
It's
Ooh,
not
I like this.
possible.
Because
Because you can't measure people.
Yeah, so I was about to say
Measure
you're dealing with people.
the 100% degree.
Which
of
I think what I
accuracy,
told her the other day.
keep it coming, guys, because this is my
right.
argument.
And some people think the solution is better cops, and I
okay.
agree.
Okay.
Right.
What is a better cop? First of all,
Here's the thing: a
Okay.
better cop is a cop who's not overworked.
true.
Better cop is a cop who's not overworked, and
Also, a better cop is one that, passes all the tests at the normal standard when they haven't lowered them.
well, here's the thing: I also think some of the standards are messed up.
Not physical
right?
one, I meant
'Cause
psychically.
We've got a reputation that we have to cops
Maintain.
have a bad rep right now, right? How do you make it better, right?
Well,
it's difficult.
first of all, where do you get your news?
yeah,
And this is your generation, because I know where mine gets it.
Yeah.
So if it's social media, this is my opinion.
If you get your news off Twitter,
And if you're getting your news off whatever, name a social media network that is not actually, fair and looking at all of the pieces of information, then it's going to
All
be
of them.
biased.
Well, absolutely.
them.
And then that's what you get.
Yeah, how do you fight a bias?
Right.
source?
How do you? How
And,
do,
and
exactly.
the answer is a lot simpler than you think.
Okay. Tell me.
Interacting with individuals positively, right?
Take the
'Cause
high
it
road.
doesn't
Take the high
matter
road.
what Twitter says if everybody in your town knows the cops.
Yeah.
And
likes
that's
them.
and
Which
that
is what Springfield's going through.
yeah, that and
Twitter,
that's
Twitter can say cops are the worst people and go like, well, last time I called the cops, they helped me.
right. We
Like
can-
the last time the cops were in my neighborhood, like they like slam dunked a ball for like a
shocking
little girl or something,
That
right?
in a community, if you as a cop don't just shoot people on sight, that will paint you in a positive light for the people who live there.
Well, it's
Crazy.
Truth triumphs
and
everything.
and Springfield as a town has passed the levy
Yeah.
for 20 years. We're now on the 20th year of trying to pass a levy, which that has its own economic why are we still on the levy. But putting that aside, that usually is a vote of confidence from the public, which sometimes gets rattled by things that happen, different events that have happened, 2020 in particular.
But you guys passed the one even during the riots, right?
No, that's coming up
Oh,
this year.
it's not an every year thing.
No, it's every 4 years.
Oh.
It's difficult
5.
because the world events affect the view of the people.
They
here
shouldn't.
of our police.
It's true though.
But
yeah.
like our police are not, they're not with what's happening, whatever, in
The Eugene
Montana
cop?
or Ohio or anything. Yeah.
Right.
The Springfield cop
Right,
wasn't there.
Ferguson, Missouri. I mean, the racial
Yeah.
tensions of the South are not Oregon. I mean,
No.
there are ripples of those kinds of things, but not at
we've
the
got our
same
own
level.
problems.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not at the same level of, former Dixie.
But-
not the same.
How
considering
you
our
fight
roots.
that is just with truth, right? Like
Yeah,
and
true.
and it's the best marketing campaigns are the ones that reach out to individuals, right? Because if you really help somebody, right, they never forget it.
They never.
They never
yeah,
forget it.
That's true.
And the people you help will always stand up for you.
That's
Always.
true.
And it's that thing about loyalty. We are loyal to a fault.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least most of us. Some people aren't. Right.
Some people built different.
Yeah. Some people are built different. But most human beings, they say, "Hey, that guy was there for me on my worst day. It
I'm
was
there for
really
him."
there for me."
Yeah.
Right? And so people start coming for the police with things that aren't relevant to our police. Right.
Right.
And they go, "Hey, that's just not true about our town." Right?
Yeah.
Like our police are here to help us. They're here to protect us, right? And they're just people like you and me, right? They're thinking about their families and yours, and that's the thing. Like to build that, how do you do that, right? And that's when you're understaffed. It's like, well, oh crap. Like, how do we get the cops? How do we give them time to really give it their all for these people?
And you
right?
take the time that's needed.
So
Yeah.
to do that, would you just need more people then?
That's what I keep. I mean, the answer is yes to the basic principle of how many are needed to actually staff at a basic minimum. I haven't crunched the numbers myself to see what that should be, but it is a conversation that I know all these. It's not just here; it's everywhere. They're so short. You can't hire enough people.
I mean, this is just my personal opinion, right? Like, this is not based in business. This is my personal opinion. I'll tell you the stuff that's based in business after this. But do all cops need to run a half marathon?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I'm saying they don't. Like,
Yeah.
no.
You need cops, right? Every now and then you need the cop who's going to handle the high risk situation, right? The guys who are really in shape, really for it, right? Sometimes you need cops who are really good at de-escalation, really good with people, right?
And that's
Like-
who you'd send your domestic violence case.
Right.
So the problem that most agencies have, and I can speak from ours, is you need a football team to be a good police department. It's basically you're going to need somebody who's a quarterback, you need a cornerback, you're going to need the front line, you need the O line, you need the defense. It's basically a football team. But everybody has to know how to play football, and everybody needs to know the rules, and everybody needs to be able to understand that we move the ball a particular way. The problem that we run into when we start to lower the physical standards is that the high risk, low frequency events are so high risk that you can't move that bar very far before you're really risking the public. So that's that weird
Yeah.
phenomena that has helped with us having cahoots. By having cahoots, we sort of bring in this
Yeah.
different sort of feel and way.
And what I think Alex talking about is literally just that cahoots just being a part of the police department.
Which they are.
Yeah.
That's what
Well,
we use them for.
And
yeah.
here's the thing, with that football team
And they're
analogy,
great.
right? How does the football team make money? It's not by getting out on that field. It's by their marketing. It's by selling. right?
Selling.
You guys need a marketing team, right?
Which-
and that's civil
Crazy.
servants, right? You need your frontline guys when things are serious, right?
Yeah.
You need your SWAT team
Yeah.
when you need your SWAT team, right? But domestic violence case, you don't need the SWAT team always, right? Sometimes you need somebody to negotiate, somebody to talk people down. You need people who are really good at that, right? You need these people who are emotionally and mentally stable to an extreme degree, right? And that's not always the guy who can run a, who can pass, the what is it, like the Borat or the Porat, Porpat.
Poor Pat and poor. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
getting it wrong. But it's interesting because that is a very big dilemma that we're in. But then how do you attract people to a job that is risky to their lives and will change their life and will change who they are and how they are in the world?
Yeah, I don't think people can fully grasp and appreciate how much it changes your life until you're in it
It really does.
Yeah, and I think that
or out of it, because I don't know how much it affects my life. You being a part of the police department, because I've always been a part of it.
Yeah, I'm curious about how that. Yeah, I don't know.
'Cause I know that's something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah,
market it, right? It'll change your life. But it'll change you for the better, right? Coming out of it, you've seen a lot of stuff, but are you a better person?
Copy what the military does and just kidnap people out of high school.
well, yeah, we're almost
Right,
headed
recruit them out of high school.
there. Kidnap. It is for the better some ways, for the worse some ways. I mean,
But
everything,
that's life, right?
right? And it's so hard to tease apart after all these years to know.
I think to ultimately solve the problem of policing, we need to do a complete overhaul of what it is.
Yeah.
That's for your
Something
generation.
fit for the 21st century, though.
Well, I mean, cahoots
it's such an old school
is a
thing.
really good start, honestly.
Exactly.
When you think about it, cahoots, you're like, well, these guys, like, we don't need, the like armed to the nines people showing up for all these things, right?
Yeah.
We need people who are really good at connecting with other people, meeting them where they're at, and talking them down, right? And giving them an established plan, right? Say, hey,
What where the failing comes in my opinion, is that there's not big enough other holds to put people. So the mental health system being broken means that cahoots can literally put a band-aid on it, kind of give a person a plan, but then they're still homeless. Then they're still on the street. Then they still are into meth because that's what gets them through, maybe because of their brain chemistry.
And that's why ideally we would
definitely.
pass laws that would transition people instead of jail
Yes.
to.
That's
But then they
our
dropped the
problem.
ball on that one here in Oregon as well.
Yeah,
so
they did.
here's a
Big time.
fundamental of economics,
time.
right? There has to be a need before there's a solution, and that's the issue, is that we're in the time in which we're establishing the need, right?
Yeah.
And so we're in this difficult transitionary period. We're saying like, hey, we've got cahoots, but it's a band-aid.
Yeah.
especially with mental health
totally.
though too, because mental health
feel
we're
like we-
just now coming around to being able to talk about it.
I think we've bottomed
Here's the
out in
question.
mental health.
Why are we having so many mental health problems? And the answer is clear. Like, people are being taken advantage of everywhere, right?
Well,
Cops are taken
and
advantage
part of
of,
it, too-
but not intentionally, but because they have to be, right?
Part of it,
you
too-
have to overwork people, because what are you going to do when there's no cops?
Right.
Like, there's no good solution.
In coming from the perspective of my work, I think a big factor in the world and the amount of like suffering that people are under also comes back to this issue of dopamine, and that's obviously where addiction stems from, is drugs messing with your dopamine system or any other addictive thing.
Sugar, just saying,
Right.
just for instance.
Yes, exactly. Any other addictive thing. And anything can be addictive to anyone, depending on what your brain latches onto and what you use different things for. And the thing is that we live in a world that is so dopamine driven, with marketing, with the new great best thing. And as like the science is done, like understanding people's brains and understanding how people function, understanding what gets people motivated, that understanding is great to help people. But as soon as that's discovered, it's also used against people. And so when people are marketing things, or when they put the newest, best, chemicals in your food or whatever it is, the sweeteners or all these different things are made to take advantage of those dopamine systems that we have. And the thing that is kind of becoming more and more understood in some of the scientific literature is that your dopamine pleasure circuits are very much tied to your pain circuits. And what that means is that, you know, you kind of think like your body is running in the system of like trying to find homeostasis, right? Between, you know, a lot of people might be familiar with like the sympathetic nervous system versus the parasympathetic nervous system, right? That's your fight or flight system, and your rest and digest system is what we like to say, right? And those work in balance, where one is up, the other goes down. And we're starting to think that kind of this pleasure pain system works in a similar way, which is part of why, you know, if you're experiencing a lot of stimulation, a lot of pleasure, a lot of things that really pour in that dopamine, your brain is going to go the other direction. And then this issue is that we're finding, especially with young people these days, is that when you're constantly bombarded with these very high dopamine things, like, you know, social media, like different foods, like different types of like things that we see becoming more and more common in media and things like that, just having more access to this sort of thing, you get these kids and adults who just feel bad and don't have a reason why, or don't have something to put that on.
Okay.
Because the more you spend with these stimulating things that are releasing dopamine, your brain has to come back to homeostasis.
Okay.
And that's a difficult thing, and that's a difficult thing to work with. And that's why things that kind of can push on the other side of that. So like exercise is a really great example. If you really push yourself when you're exercising, you do get endorphins that make you feel good, but that's also part of why you feel good after you exercise, is because you're pushing on the other side of that scale and allowing your body to create dopamine naturally, rather than needing a constant dosage of dopamine externally, whether that is drugs, whether that is media, or whatever it is. The other thing that is very relevant to mental health these days that's coming out more and more about how our dopamine system works, and this very much plays into the part of the brain that I study, is people associate dopamine as like, oh, pleasure. Pleasure happens, dopamine happens. But that's actually not really how it works. It's more like pleasure that is unexpected is going to give you the most dopamine. So the part of the brain that I study, it's people are kind of thinking that what it mainly does is inhibit your dopamine system based on what you are expecting to receive.
Oh, interesting.
Right. So if you're expecting like something really great to happen, and it does, but it's not as great as you were expecting, that's why you kind of don't feel good, right? And so that's a big part of this as well when it comes to social media. And that's how, you know, I kind of laugh when people try to compare different drugs or different addictive things in our world and say, oh, well, this is physically addictive, this is psychologically addictive. But what people forget is that your psychology is biology. Like, that's what neuroscience is. Like, your psychology literally is biology. It's all the same. And what that means is, like, that's why when people have certain drugs, they need more of that drug to get the same effect.
Right.
That's why that same idea applies to things that are not addictive drugs, right? That's why if you're having sugar, that first bite of something tastes better than the rest of it, right? Your first sip of that nice warm cup of coffee or whatever it is always tastes better than the rest of it, you know?
Exactly.
And that's also why, you know, there's an escalation, right? You know, whether that's gambling or sugar or sex or drugs or whatever it is that is the thing that you cling to, and social media is definitely taking advantage of this. What is unexpected is going to give you the most pleasure, the most dopamine, and when you're expecting it, you don't get as much.
That really explains police work almost in a nutshell.
Yes.
Because part of why it is such a great job, or why it's so enjoyable, is that it really is a surprise. Like, sometimes you're like, holy moly, didn't know that was happening. Didn't know we were gonna have this happen right now. And the pursuits that officers get in and all that, like, whoa, you're right, there's that just surprise.
Exactly. And social media these days is taking advantage of that, especially I think that's why TikTok does so well, is because the whole thing is like
a surprise.
You're surprised. Like, it's what's the next video going to be?
For you.
Right. Everything is unexpected. You have no idea what's coming next, which means all the dopamine that funny video gives you is that uninhibited, like you're not inhibited by what you're expecting to see.
Gotcha.
Right. And so when we all are living in this world of constant escalation, it's just constant escalation, your brain is going to try to bring you back to homeostasis, and people don't do well. And when people, when you treat mental illness and treat this escalation like, oh, well, that's their problem for being addicted to these drugs, right? But then you're scrolling through social media or you're binge eating or you're, whatever it is. It's like we all have these issues and we're all coping with it in different ways. And I think as a society, like we're just struggling with a dopamine overdose from all of these different things, this constant escalation that none of us can make enough on our own anymore, right? Like people just get so depressed, and that's why like we need better mental health services. Like we need better things to help people learn how to rebalance and learn how to make your baseline where you need to be. That works the best for your life.
Do you mind if I chime in on this a little bit? There's it's actually interesting. This does tie into why you're having issues employing people, right? You think about cops; they're surprised every day, right?
Every day.
I mean, their skills are like this, right? Everything is crazy for them, right?
Or not, or completely boring.
Completely boring, right? And that's the issue. Is that, think about it. You're on a teeter totter, and somebody gigantic jumps on the other side. You go flying, right? It's not very fun, right? You're like, that was horrible, or it was super fun, and now you're like, adrenaline's rushing, and you're dead at the end of the day.
Yeah,
You're just dead.
Exhausted.
Or if nobody gets on the other side, like shit, try sitting there for 8 hours, right? Like that you're gonna feel just as dead at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's terrible. But the solution is interesting. This generation, right? The generation that I'm in, we will always say this, and it is a lie. It is a lie every time we tell you it. It's about the pay.
Oh,
it is not about the money.
Yeah, no, that doesn't. That definitely is ringing true statistically.
Yeah, it is not about the money.
No.
The position.
They just need enough to live off of, and that's it.
You're darn close. You are darn close.
Yeah?
Like you're nearly on the money. It's just a little past that. But
live off of. I meant comfortably,
live off of comfortably,
not paycheck
right?
to paycheck.
But the position at the police department was offering like 36 an hour is what it looked like, right? And I was like, that is really good money,
right?
It's really good money.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, surely they can get people for that,
right?
And I fall for this trap too. I fall for this trap. I go, it's got to be about the money.
No,
it is all about the hours. It is all about the hours
and the time off.
Well,
is that fair?
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, time off, all about the hours, right?
Who wants to work 12 hours a day?
Nobody. But my current job, right? I hate it.
Okay.
Hate it with a burning passion.
With an H.
I get capital H, but I have Friday half days. I get paid time off 4 hours a week, and I go, you know what? Even though I hate my job, that makes it a little easier to go back to work on Monday.
So what is it that is it fair to ask what is the thing you don't like about it?
I hate that I'm busy that often, honestly. Really, like 8 hours a day. And to be fair, I have some sleep issues that mean I have less time in a day. But I think it's a big thing with our generation of like, why would I be working 50 hours a week? I don't need that much money, right? Our generation, where
I've never thought about it that way. Yeah, like let's say you're being paid really well, and you're like, well, I don't need more than 30 hours worth of work.
Yeah.
Like if I could just say I need X amount of dollars, I'm going to work 20 hours because that gets me the money I want.
Well, our generation is setting their own goals, right?
Like speaking to some of the reasoning behind that. I think our generation.
Well, we were told if you put your mind to it, you can do anything your whole life. So we're putting our minds to it and trying to do stuff, and that's not working well with the old world.
Well, and
we're doing what we want.
Ironic, isn't it?
I also think we all grew up watching our parents go through the recession.
Also suffer
in many different ways.
Long.
And realizing that it's doesn't. I can't think of anyone that I know, like any of my friends. Limited that number may be. Like anyone I know, like in my generation, that would be willing to just like work so much that they don't like. None of us see it as worth it to work to have like a certain amount of money to be able to buy certain things if we don't have any time to just be with people, be with our family, be with like be
100%,
home
yeah.
after it. And I think that's the difference, is like, you know, watching our, you know, our parents like go through the recession and have to work so hard just to make ends meet, or just to keep up whatever standard of living, you know, we had. But as kids, you care about your standard of living, but only to a certain extent. Like as a kid, you just want to hang out with your mom and dad.
Yeah, I grew up dirt poor. Dirt poor. I mean, my dad was in so much debt, and my mom was not great with her finances. And I got to tell you, the happiest I've been is when we were poor.
Oh, really?
Happiest I've been. Yeah, we were eating hot dogs and top ramen every night. But you know what? I had time with my parents. Here's the thing: we grow up with both parents in our house, so a lot of us do, right? But do we really grow up with them in the house?
In the house.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I
do.
go to school, I come home, I have dinner, and I go to bed. Right? How much time did I spend with mom and dad?
I think I spent more time with you guys on the line than I did with my parents.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the difficulty, is that, you know, we grew up going, I'm not doing that, right?
Right.
I do not want to miss out on that, because I know, like, for example, like, I know my dad didn't want to miss out on any of that,
Right.
but he worked because he had to, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, I don't have kids right now. I don't have to work like that, right? Like, I can set myself up in life to where I do not have to make that sacrifice. Because it's not a sacrifice people should have to make. You shouldn't have to choose my house or my family. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a fair thing to make people choose between.
And it's interesting because that's exactly where we're kind of at, is that us old people, and which also then speaks to management, are used to the work group of my age group, who are like, and probably to about 40, the age group that goes to about 40-ish. They're like, oh, okay, if I have to work 62 hours a week, I work 62. If I have to work 77, I work 77.
Yeah, how many hours did you work in the last week here before you went on vacation?
77.
Yeah.
1 week,
You know,
77
my
hours.
boss asked me if I could work overtime, and I told him no.
And I
Different job, but yeah.
and that some of those hours are not paid because I was actually doing union stuff, which is not paid. It's actually out of that sort of the value system that you were talking about, which is like, if I know good answers and can represent the employees that are not being heard, I feel like I have to. I feel compelled that I have to.
Like, you have an obligation because you have the ability.
And I have the knowledge and I have the experience to say these things and pull data to show that this is what's in fact happening. So that adds to that whole, for me. Not everybody at the police department works 77 hours, but there's several who work more than that.
Yeah. I think part of the difficulty comes with, you know, in the, you know, my parents' generation and older, there's this perspective that you know, attitude is what is most valuable. Like the willingness to work that hard, the willingness to do that, you know, that's what makes you, you know, a good American dad or whatever it is. And it's just kind of, it's difficult because I think as that perspective is changing, there's an attitude either that the younger generation is like lazy for not wanting to do that, but it's this issue of like, it's not about not wanting to work, it's about checking, why am I working, right? Am I working to just, you know, for me, I love my job. Like, I would not want to do anything else. It's what I like to do with my time. I take way too many credits in school and volunteer, and like, during the school year, I'm not paid for my job at all.
Right.
And I keep doing it because I love it and it's what I want to do with my time. You know, I don't think, you know, our generation hates being bored. I don't think it's not just not wanting to work.
That's true.
I think it's an aspect of like, why am I doing it? If I have a job I'm passionate about, like, I'll put the hours into that. But the fact is like, even then, for me with my job, if I work too much and don't have the energy to put into Alex and put into my friends and like be with them, it still gets me really down, you know.
And have you experienced that very much, where you hit a moment where you're like, oh boy?
I did last fall. Got pretty rough.
Yeah. Was that when I was in the hospital?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what landed me in the hospital, honestly.
Not just me not working.
Not Leah.
Working. Both
Leah
of
didn't
us
land me
being
in the hospital.
overworked.
Both of you.
We barely saw each other. We just got married in September. I started school the day we got back from our honeymoon.
I remember
He started
that,
his new job the day we got back from our honeymoon.
Oh boy.
I
And we
remember you guys telling
barely
me
saw
about
each
that,
other.
yeah.
His awful doctor put him on medication for depression, but then didn't keep up with him to make sure it was not having a negative effect on him, which this medication apparently can have. And
Great.
Alex ended up in the hospital at the end of that term.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and you know, since then I don't take as many credits, but even then it's like I love my job.
Right.
Like, I love what I do.
Right.
And even then it feels depressing and not worth it if I'm not getting time with my family.
Yeah,
and my
you want to know how to
friends.
cure depression? Hang out with people who love you.
Yeah.
That's true.
Straight up.
It is true.
That is true.
Stop going to work all the time. Hang out with people who love you. I'm not kidding.
I gotta make I'm gonna have to make a memo.
It will make your life 100 times better.
And I think
the
that's
time in
what-
which I wasn't working at all, I think the happiest I've been in years. And
Wait,
I wasn't.
We hung out like
doing
every day
nothing.
online.
Yeah, we hung out
so-
every day. I cooked dinner for Leah. I picked her up and took her to school. I mean, here's the thing: we have this idea that, like, if you're not working, you're not doing anything. Dude, if I'm not working, I'm going swimming, I'm cooking, I'm doing all these things.
You're
to
living
keep the
life.
household.
Yeah.
I'm living life, right? Those are the things that people live for.
Yeah.
Like, we don't live to go work for somebody else. Like, we live to work for the people we care about. And at the end of the day, like, how do you keep yourself going at your job? Are you thinking about all the money I'm going to make? Are you thinking about, shit, I got my son when I'm coming home, I got my dog, right? Like, I'm doing this for my family.
And what gets kind of tricky is that some of my family ends up being the police department. Some of my family ends up being the people I'm in the trenches with 12 hours a day, who I've known for 20, some of them 28 years, and not so many anymore, but still that connection at the
Yeah.
work level. I don't know if you've had that also, but it can be a sweet spot where you hit
Yeah.
the pay dirt on the people you work
Well,
with.
if you're
and-
working
Sure,
if you're working a job that you're passionate about, I think you're bound to build some of those relationships. And I think for me, you know, like I said, working in a job that I'm very passionate about, and also being a full-time student, you know, like when you're at that, you're working something that you care about a lot,
Right.
you're bound to meet people that end up
Same
becoming
interest.
like family because
Exactly.
like they care about the same things you care about and like share the interests that you share. And that's definitely like a big factor with it. But I think I heard kind of like an analogy recently that talked about like kind of the like older generation like perspective on like how the younger generation is and like what we want, like the fact that we are prioritizing getting time with our friends over that new fancy car,
Right.
or saving up for like those status symbol purchases in life, or being content with a job that just pays the bills, like being okay with,
Yeah.
you know, it was always like a threat to us like growing up. I don't know if your parents were this way or anything like that, but you know, it was like, well, you better study hard or you're gonna end up working at McDonald's. Like it was
I've heard
always like,
that's
oh,
right.
you're gonna like end up working, like, or people, you know, they point out people like doing like a hard job or something like that, and be like, oh, if you
Hey.
don't study, if you don't go to college, you could end up like that. And a lot of people in my generation are like, well, does their job pay their bills? Hell yeah, I'll do that
Right.
job. You know?
And now those people, stupid. One of the highest paying jobs I know, Panda.
Yes.
Panda
Panda
manager.
Express
Panda
manager.
manager. Yep.
Sure, 6 figures.
Yeah, just to clock in onto the how to hire people though.
Yeah,
Pay them less, give them better hours.
Yeah.
And
that is a
100%.
trade I think a lot of people would take. Yeah,
100%. If you paid me half of what I'm making now, but gave me a part-time position, I think it'd be the
part time at 31 hours though, of course.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, part-time.
oh my gosh, yeah,
What's that,
right.
31.9 hours a week or something. Yeah,
Christmas.
but
It's
the real
0.9.
trade.
I'm clocking out.
Yeah. Well, it's like really that how you get people in. People are tired, and for cops, it's not sustainable.
No.
You cannot work that high stress, high fluctuation job 50, 40 hours. It's not going to happen.
We've
Also,
been
the
doing
people who
it
do it
for a while.
are superhuman. I got to tell
For
you.
how
that.
many years too? Like 20 years, 25 years. Like some of the cops get up there, and you're like, how do you do that job? For
I mean,
that
one
many
of the
hours
guys that
long?
works the most amount of hours, you know, he's been doing it 30, and
You have to sacrifice something.
he's yeah.
everything. Like because like if you end up working 16 hours a day, theoretically that's all your waking hours.
Yeah,
If
If
and
you,
you're
if you get
sacrificing
8
your
hours
sleep.
of sleep, that's everything.
You have to choose what you sacrifice. Some people sacrifice money for time, but our generation, I think it's the other way.
I think you're right, and I mean,
the
it's
other way.
definitely
Yeah, I forgot about
showing.
that, yeah.
It's definitely showing in you know what people are willing to do, and
Yes,
you're
I'm not
you're
just
right that
lazy.
we there.
I am a little bit, but
No, I meant me. I'm not just lazy. You see, I'm living my life. Yeah.
no.
So whenever I ask what are your aspirations, you're like, I'm living them.
Yes, I've told you that
know.
before.
I know, and I'm like, well, I'd like to share the load so that I can have a little bit of that. But yeah, so are there any last things that you guys would like to share or great ideas you guys have?
Quit your job if you hate it.
It's true. It's legit.
It is a employee's market right now.
Yeah.
Go do something that not necessarily that you will enjoy, but that pays your bills and has time for you to enjoy your life after. It's the best decision you'll ever
Unironically,
make.
you're probably better off trying to get some kind of job at like a fast food place.
Unironically, I'm going to go work at
Well,
McDonald's.
because they used to be a threat. They used to be
Yeah,
legitimate
yeah.
teachers. You say that all the time.
Yep.
Like if you don't study, you'll just end up flipping burgers at
Yeah,
McDonald's.
I know gas is expensive, but
And-
go do Grubhub.
Right?
Yeah.
You're your own boss.
I made
Nobody's
so
ever
much,
going to tell
Especially-
you
I
what
made
to
so
do.
much money doing that last summer.
Some of them now end up covering part of your gas too during the
Oh, during
price
the-
increase.
You can
Oh, really?
you can write it off on your taxes too.
You could do that. Yeah.
Yep, we have a little toolbox where we keep all the receipts in. And if Lee ever made enough money, I was like, I've got all the receipts for the money and
Yeah.
for all the gas. We'll
Fill
write
it
that
up.
up. But yeah, quit your job. That's my best advice.
Don't be a police person. Quit.
Yeah.
That is what a lot of people say though.
Yeah.
A lot of people will then give life advice like quit your job.
Yeah, if you can. Yeah, it is a privilege to
Yeah.
be able to quit your job if you can.
That's
Theoretically,
true. It
you
is a privilege.
transition into something better.
Yes.
If you
From-
cannot, plan it.
Yeah, we're working on a exit strategy. Second career for me, maybe a first career for Gabe. I don't know.
Here's something. You're old enough to be happy.
Yeah, that's true. I'm pretty happy, but tired.
You're old enough to be mostly happy.
Mostly happy. I am mostly happy, but just this, I've been on vacation, so just having enough sleep is like, oh, this is nice.
I think it's a struggle for a lot of our generation watching our parents be unhappy.
Yeah.
Like shit. like,
Divorce went a long
watching
way.
them work so hard their whole lives, we're like, you're old enough to be happy. Just go be happy.
Just go be
And
happy.
That's what we
That's
want
sweet.
for our parents.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. I guess
Very
that's
sweet. That's
putting
very
words
sweet.
of what I feel. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's what I keep telling my parents too. I'm like, Dad, like you hate this job, and he's like, well, if I just go a few more years, like
That's where
I
I'm
can
at.
do all this, I can do all this, I can get all these benefits, I can blah 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 blah. And I'm like,
I'm gonna kill over in a few years, man.
it's like you need to do what makes you happy. You need to do like if you're taking care of my mom, if you're like doing what you need to do in your life, if you're happy, then like I don't care what job you're doing, I don't care where you live. Like he said the other day, he's like, if I kind of moved out more rural where property's cheap, like we could afford something really nice, but like I don't want to be that far away from you. And I'm like, I just want you to be happy. Like I'll drive to see you. Like it would
Wherever it would
make me
be.
happy for you to be
Happy.
happy.
Alex is like, move far away so we can't go see you.
I feel that way.
Oh no,
Hey,
you moved too far away.
I said we moved 20 minutes out of the town. I will drive 2 hours to come and get you, my friend.
No, I was talking about her parents.
Oh,
Not me.
Yeah. Get as far away as we can.
Yeah, yeah.
I love both our parents, but like when I want to see them, you know.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's-
in-laws or your parents. Yeah.
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 Right? Sorry,
them
I'm
when I
the
wanna
parent
see
in the
you.
room.
Leah, do you have any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. Take care of your mental health before it gets you, because it's biology. It's not the same as, if you eat and sleep because your body will shut down if you don't do those things, then taking care of your mental health needs to be on that list too, because it will demand attention when it needs it. And if you choose to take care of that when you have the time and the space to do that, and you get to choose how that happens, it's not worth it to have that happen at a time where you didn't choose for it to happen. And
That's a good point.
that's the important thing, dealing with that sort of thing before it decides that you have to. And it is biology. It's just as important as anything else in your body. That's what I have to say.
Any closing ideas for you, Alex?
Yeah, at your police department, more positions, less hours,
Less hours,
pay.
less pay.
Yeah. Maybe create something I'll be interested in.
Okay.
And lower the bar if you can, but don't lower it where it counts. Mental stability, right?
Yeah.
Don't make the
If
news.
anything, that should be
Yeah.
raised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
With-
make the news, but yeah.
Any words of wisdom, Gabe?
No.
Oh, come on, Gabe. You're
That-
very wise.
That's pretty wise.
Right?
No.
No.
Yeah.
Man, a few words.
Gabe's like, I'm quitting.
Just do it in the great wise words of Shia LaBeouf. Just do it.
I think that's Nike, but okay, just do it.
Yeah.
No, it's Shia LaBeouf.
I think just do
Yeah.
it is also.
It is also
It's
Nike.
from a Nike commercial.
But
with
I'm-
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, he's in the commercial.
Was that a Shia LaBeouf
Oh.
commercial?
That's
Oh,
I thought it was
That's
just
what
him
the
being
whole
crazy,
thing-
like
well, that's-
always.
That's what the whole thing was.
That's fair.
Just thought it was a crazy.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming and sharing your wisdom and ideas, and I'm hoping that this will be a trend. Like we can catch up and do it every once in a while. And
For sure.
as
Yeah.
life transitions, I can't wait to hear what you guys do next. I can't wait to hear what happens with your mice and dopamine.
Yes.
Thank you for listening to Echo Connections.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Echo of Connections. You can find us on iTunes, Audible on Amazon, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. You can check out our show notes with links to our guests' websites, books, and articles, along with other useful websites on our YouTube channel. Find our website at podpage.com/echo-of-connections for bios of our guests and blog entries. Please leave us a review on iTunes, YouTube, or Spotify. Questions, comments, complaints? Leave us a message on our website or email us at echoofconnections@gmail.com.